acid folk lovers, I've been asked to make a little clip about my experiences of the band Caedmon.
Often described as possibly the best acid folk album of all time, Edinburgh-based Caedmon's self-titled debut still stands as an ambitious take on traditional music. Combining cello, mandolin, psych fuzz guitar and songs inspired by C.S. Lewis with a genuine maverick creativity, Caedmon is a musical treasure chest.
Years ago, I started collecting psychedelic folk music. A friend of mine sent me a tape of Comus and Caedmon, and my mind was blown. And I spent the next 20 years trying to find records that good, and I'm not sure I did. And to think I met both bands afterwards, saw their reunion shows. Frankly, the music of Caedmon will live for many decades, if not centuries, to come.
I'll tell you what I remember about Comus when I was at school. But whom? Comus, or Comus, as they were more rightly called. They played at our school and we supported them. And they were well known for ripping out the insides of cassette mics and clagging them onto guitars that produced a kind of contact mic and a really sort of buzzy sound. But it was what it was.
I remember sticking small loudspeakers from radios onto guitars and taking leads from the...
I came across this invention called the electric guitar, which was actually quite efficient at amplifying. Why you have to take an acoustic guitar and use electricity to magnify it, and then poo-poo.
And then put a CD on the sound hose.
I went and saw Comus.
Did you? Were they awful?
They were dark.
Yeah, that's what my impression is. It's a bit cheap.
Yeah. I mean, I saw them a few years ago in Chorlton. Not I saw them at the time, but I was interested to see them because I was supposed to be in the same bag as them.
Yeah.
The potent musicianship of Caedmon.
There you go. Potent.
That's the other thing I was thinking when we were listening to that stuff upstairs. Hang on, that's in 7/4, hang on, that's 5/4, hang on, that's just a beat chopped off every occasional bar.
So when Comus came to school, was it part of the whole programme?
Is that a leading question?
Who else was there, Simon? Who else did you support?
Well, we had all sorts of bands came to our school. Barclay James Harvest came, Genesis came, early days of Genesis, Pink Fairies, Man, and kind of various other bands besides.
So, hello, my name is Kim and I'm from Finland. And the reason I like Caedmon's music is that the way I see it, there is a very homegrown innocence and the purity of intention in the music. And the same kind of bit otherworldly and fragile beauty that I think was very prevalent in the folk music of the 60s and 70s. And this is really rare to find these days. I think because the world has changed around us and we are influenced so much by the internet. And also, something I really don't like is irony. Intended or supposed has spoiled many things lately, which might have been beautiful otherwise. So in this way, this music really stands as very unique to this day in my opinion. I really love it. And my favorite song, I think it's The Sea, definitely. So thank you, and keep listening. Bye.
The young Finnish guys that got interested me most because it's a different perspective from someone who's a bit younger.
Yeah, I mean, his stuff about irony and lack of irony, so that's quite an interesting line.
There we go, 30 seconds, The Digested Caedmon by Tony Wellbrook. High points. Giggling a lot about the idea of a trout in Y-fronts in Dunfermline many years ago. Sitting in front of a mixing desk having to explain to people why the guitar was always too loud, even though I was in charge of how loud the sound was. Lugging a PA up 1,000 stairs late at night. Meeting a bunch of people who I still love and enjoy 40 years later.
A proper grail, and one of the rarest psychedelic acid progressive folk albums, whatever you want to describe it as, that you can get in the UK. Date-wise, it sounds like it should probably be from the late 60s, from 68, 69, the same kind of times, a lot of Fairport and
I think what interested me about the band particularly was their choice of material. It truly was eclectic, reflecting the different influences of the players. You know, Jim would be have more rocky stuff maybe. Simon was more folky at that time with songs like Aslan and Sea Song, and he'll no doubt tell you about the number of hits he's getting on YouTube for that song at the moment. They also, the song choice was really interesting, and quite lyrically based as well, which I particularly like.
With Caedmon there were a diverse number of influences and mix in the music, and they're not just in the music as well, lyrics too, because when I went in Europe on a summer mission, I met some French Christians and found out that Simon had got the middle section of the tune for Smile on Your Face from a chorus that was used by French Christians. Of course, Simon studied French and been in France, and that's obviously where he got it from.
Hi there, I'm Peter Ryder. I first came across Caedmon in the early 70s when they played in Hull. I lived in Hull then, but I didn't actually see them then. I came back a week later and somebody played me the album. I liked it so much, I bought not just one, but 2 copies. I really wore out that vinyl. The song Beyond the Second Mile became part of the soundtrack of my life. And I live in Northumberland. I'm an archaeologist of sorts. This is our home church, St Cuthbert's at Earlsdon. And in the wall here, just beside me, is a stone we've only just spotted, which may date back to the 8th century. That's within 100 years of Caedmon himself. Life's about discovering and rediscovering good things.
First Caedmon encounter. I was a fresher at university in 1975. Very raw, very kind of won't know what we're doing here. And there was this thing advertised, a Christian cafe, and there was a variety of Christian societies that had got together to put this cafe evening on, and the house band were Caedmon. So that was the first time. A couple of months later, I met Sam Wilson for the first time, and he told me that Caedmon gig that night was not typical. I think maybe because it was acoustic.
High in the sky, in the cold and the dark of the winter, then I saw you had reason to die, though to me it seemed more than a martyr. To the night you were less than a slave, and we took